I saw this quote the other day is that the only people who are going to remember that you worked late is going to be your wife and kids.
Yeah.
No one else is going to take notes of all that time that you're spending except them. And so you need to make sure you're spending your time in a way that you believe is valuable.
Okay, BJ, so what is 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman about?
4,000 Weeks is based on the premise that the average human lifespan is absurdly, terrifyingly, insultingly short. And assuming you live to be 80, all you get is 4,000 weeks. That's it. You have nothing else to expect. You can't even expect tomorrow. And so when you hear that, when you realize you only have 4,000 weeks, I think a lot of us can think, oh, let's not waste any more time. Let's squeeze everything we can into the day. Let's figure out how to do everything that we can imagine and all the things that we want to do and all become all that we can be and live our best life or whatever. And that means we're going to have to be super productive and we're going to have to be super efficient and manage all our time. And that's the only way to make those 4,000 weeks count. And I think 4,000 weeks, the book tells us that's not really at all what we're supposed to do. And we're actually supposed to embrace the fact that we're limited, that our lives are finite, that in the end, everything our lives do probably results in very little change as far as the universe is concerned. And just do the things that we value, do the things that we want to do for the sake of doing them, and figure out how to be happy and have a quality life where we're spending our time doing the things that we want to do rather than living up to some aspirations that aren't possible and feeling unhappy when we fall short of those aspirations. And it, it's an interesting read. It's one of the only books besides Winning the Moments that we've read that's written post COVID. And so it's interesting. This probably I think was a COVID project that the author was working on, and I feel like you can sort of tell why because they spend a lot of time talking about how leisure time and social interactions those need to go together. That you need to be doing stuff that helps you feel like you belong and feel connected to something larger than yourself. And so, what I really think it's all about with 4,000 Weeks is just not living in the future and doing things for the sake of doing them simply because you want to do them. And it says that you shouldn't feel compelled to have a side hustle. Just have a hobby, something that you love doing, something that's not intended to make money, but something that you just want to do and have fun doing it, and that's okay. And so I really think that's what 4,000 Weeks was all about, with just figuring out what it is that you want to do with your life and doing that rather than figuring out like the most efficient way to hit some insane unreachable goal that you imagined that you shouldn't have imagined because it's not very helpful.
Yeah, a lot of this book talks about how you want to do something simply for the sake of doing it. Like you're gonna be overstimulated with opportunities. There's gonna be so many different things out there for you to pursue, especially when you're scrolling through social media. At times, it feels like there's an infinite number of things that are out there that people are working on that look actually pretty cool. But I think you need to sit down and determine for yourself, like what you think is worth chasing after. It's like the Warren Buffett line, like write down on a piece of paper like the top 25 things that you want to do over the course of your life, and then circle the top 5 things and spend a lot of time trying to get towards those top 5 every single day. And if something really is important, I think you'll make the time for it. It's like that um, he uses it in this book, the example of the professor with like a glass or a Tupperware, and he asks his students to fill it with rocks, okay, and pebbles and sand, and try to fit it all in there. And he shows like at the very end of the assignment, like with everybody, showing them how to do it. And he puts the big rocks in, and then he puts like the little pebbles in, and then he puts the sand in at the very end that fills all the little crevices. And it's like you need to do the most important things first, and then you'll make the time for everything else, right? Like you need to find what you truly value and stick to that as best you can each and every day, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't think this is really the typical self help book. I also don't think that it's particularly new or innovative and like you've never heard any of the stuff here before. It's just an interesting perspective. It's not like tips and tricks to squeeze more out of your day or a guide to achieving your goals faster, like a lot of the other books we've read. Atomic Habits, Think and Grow Rich. It's not a blueprint for the perfect person you're supposed to be or anything like that where it's telling you what you should do. It's more about like challenging your assumptions and confronting your fears and realizing that you aren't going to be able to do all the things that you hope you're able to do and just accepting that you're imperfect in that way. And you probably don't want to be able to do all the things you can imagine. But because your choices are valuable and important because of all the things you're sacrificing, right? It wouldn't if you could have everything regardless of your decision. No decision would really matter because you're getting it either way. So this book sort of it spends a lot of time just talking about fundamentally scarcity, like economic scarcity, which like you have 4,000 weeks, or you expect you'll have 4,000 weeks. You don't really know, but you gotta understand that every time you make a decision or spend your time, that's a trade off between everything else you could have done. And so you gotta figure out what really matters to you because either way you're gonna be spending that time. Either way you're committing to something. Even if you're not committing to anything, you that's a commitment. And so if you can figure out what it is you really value and then work to spend your time doing that, that's what's going to be most helpful rather than just dreaming about all the things you could do with your time. If you're actually doing it in pursuit of something that you find is meaningful, something that makes you feel happy and you enjoy it just for the sake of doing it rather than, oh, I'll be happy when I accomplish this goal, when I make this much money, that's why I'm doing it. But no, you're like, you pumped to go do that every day because that's just what you want to do. If you can find that thing and live your passion, like Gary Vee says, and just figure out how to do that every day and just keep doing that, that's really what I think this book tells you to do. To, to take your time and spend it doing something. Take your time. It teaches you how to use your time by using it less, by not necessarily squeezing the most into it, but doing the most important things with it. And that's not going to be determined by anyone else. That's going to be determined for you, and you just have to figure that out. And that can be kind of fun, just trying out a ton of different things. That's sort of the stage I've been at for a decent while, is just trying a ton of different things and seeing what I like to do. And a lot of super fun things have come out of this. This has come out of that, right? And so if you have something in mind that you think is that thing where you can wake up every morning and that's what you want to do and you're pumped, you're ahead of me. Get to work on that. But if you're not, just have fun exploring all the things you can and doing everything that you want to do and figuring out, okay, this is what I like about this. This is what I don't like about this. Is there something that doesn't have those dislikes?
Yeah, like this book is such an interesting take on time management because it's not telling you how you're going to schedule your entire day from start to finish and how you're going to make the most of each and every minute. It's talking about picking those like five crucial things, like the most important things you think you want to do over the course of your life. And if, they truly are important, you'll make time for them every single day. It's not like you're how we generally perceive time management as trying to make ourselves the most efficient beings humanly possible and then trying to get like more bang for our buck with the time that we have here, which obviously we know is limited. It's more so geared towards finding what you really like and then spending as much time doing that as possible, not necessarily making yourself the most efficient being possible, kind of like what we often perceive it as. I think another thing as well is this book is a lot different from pretty much every single book that we've read prior to this one because this book is for the kind of person that works a lot already, I think. And the other books are more geared towards the individual that needs help getting towards that, right? It's like those books are going to help provide you some motivation and they help you understand what discipline looks like. Okay. And they'll help you understand that motivation isn't going to help you in the long run. Discipline's going to be the thing that you need to get you towards your goals in the long run. So it is kind of cool reading a book like this because it is geared towards kind of like the opposite side of the aisle of the individuals that are extremely disciplined and that are working towards something each and every day, but maybe they are a little blind in that sense because, or ignorant, I guess you could say, because maybe they're looking at it wrong. Maybe they're living in the future too much. And that's another key takeaway I'd say from this book. He talks about how people become too consumed in their future and that they lose sight of maybe why they were doing it in the first place or why or like they lose sight of that enjoyment. And so trying to live in the moment, I guess, while at the same time trying to accomplish those major goals in your life, that may be a hard balance to find, but I think finding that balance is really going to help.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the book, like we keep using this sort of spending your time wisely and like you have 4,000 weeks, but the book actually makes the arguments that we are nothing more than these just continuous streams of moments in time, and we're just constantly experiencing because we don't actually know that we're gonna have the next moment. Like I could die like right now, right? Who knows, right?
Good.
I just expect that I'm going to be able to finish my sentence. And I expect that, okay, I'll be able to be someplace in a year and be doing something. But that's not guaranteed. And so it's not like you're going to somehow have mastery over your time. That's just not possible. So stop worrying about trying. Well, because you are your time. You are that sort of continuous stream of moments that you're experiencing, and so it really helps you sort of navigate perfectionism in a bit, in a little way, because it's like you don't have to worry about all these different things because you're not going to achieve them anyways. So stop worrying about being perfect. Just enjoy what you're doing. Stop procrastinating because you only have 4,000 weeks, but also stop worrying about being perfect. And so, really, I think helps you develop a sense of gratitude a little bit because you realize, okay, I'm very happy for what I have. I'm happy for these 4,000 weeks that I'll probably have. And I need to make the most of them by doing something meaningful, but not stressing myself out and not trying to enter into some uh, agreements where it's like I'm going to be unhappy until I get whatever. That's what a desire is. I'm going to suffer until I get it. I'll be happy when I get this title in my company. I'll be happy when my company is making this much money. I'll be happy when I perform in front of all these people. Whatever it is, that's not a great agreement to have. You need to be you need to find some way to be happy now and be grateful for what you have now, because it will never be enough in the end. You'll find someone who's doing better. You'll just right now, our friends on their they started their project about the same time as us, and they're hitting like 5 million views on their shorts, and we're like, come on,
Yeah.
where's that for us? But we're super excited for them, but we want to beat them. It's that sort of
Mm.
friendly competition, and so, but that's not really the important thing. I'm not going to enter into some agreements where it's like, until we hit 5 million, I'm going to be miserable and I'm going to be working all the time. No, I'm going to have fun doing what I'm doing. This is fun. I don't feel the need to get necessarily annoyed at that, but I think you can simultaneously have this mindset of uh, enjoying what you're doing and being grateful and satisfied, and still work every day and hustle and get stuff done. I don't think it's an either or. I think there is a way where you can manage those two sort of paradoxical attitudes at the same time. And I think a lot of people do it, and those people are very happy and very successful.
And I think with entrepreneurship, it's going to cause a lot of stress and it's going to take up a lot of time in your life. But I think if you're able to find like that really cool group of individuals that you're able to work with for who knows, like 80 hours a week, like that just sounds so fun, you know? Like I imagine like the PayPal mafia. And I remember reading Peter Thiel's book and he was talking about how fun it was. Like they were able to build such a cool software that it changed people's lives. Like people were able to find so much value in this software, and it was something that this PayPal mafia found so much enjoyment doing. Like they were pretty much like sleeping at the office at times because it was taking up so much time, but they enjoyed being around each other. It almost felt like play to them. Like they'd come to the office and it was just a group of, guys in their 20s, just chilling, having a fun time trying to solve very complex problems with each other. And it led to so much enjoyment in their life, so much fulfillment because we're getting so much enjoyment out of providing value to other people's lives. And like that's something that like I think a lot of entrepreneurs want to find. And so you need to really find enjoyment doing something for like simply the sake of doing it. Okay? Because sometimes we do get caught up in the end goal, like trying to get 5 million views on every single short, right? Like our friends, they got so many views on one of their shorts that I saw. I was like kind of like
Yeah,
starstruck when I
yeah,
saw it. I was like, dang, that's crazy. But that like those videos that do really well, like that's not why you're going to do it for the long run. Like you're going to do it because you find enjoyment going to work, just sitting
yeah,
here having a conversation with BJ. I think I find a lot of enjoyment simply just doing that. And so like I think that makes it all worth it. And so if you're able to say that, you're simply able to have enjoyment simply for the sake of doing it. Like I think I've talked about this in a prior episode, but BJ and I would have these conversations off air, just casually, and we're like, you know what? We're already having these conversations anyway. You might as well just, put a camera and mic in front of them and see what happens, because I think other people are going to find value in these conversations. I think we just need to do the best job we can to get them out there. I remember like other people would hear us having these conversations and they were actually somewhat interested in them in person. And so I think there is an audience out there for it. And like I was saying, we already did it simply for the sake of doing it. So why not try to do something with it?
yeah. I think with our friends project, I think we're gonna be stuck doing this way longer than they are. I think we're having way too much fun in comparison.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure they're enjoying it. I'm sure they're certainly enjoying the success. They're loving it. But
Oh yeah.
I think for us, like this is something we would do naturally. Recording it is just an additional step, and so it, I'm very very happy with just being able to have these conversations, and then also use the data we get from this and optimize it and solve those problems. Like that's just fun for me. That's fun for to have this project, right? And so I think you need to figure out, you audience, not you Gavin, need to figure out what it is you want to do with your time and figure out what is that thing that you can just do naturally and have that happening just because you want to do it and not because of anyone else telling you you should do this, or you getting distracted by all these different opportunities. Because well, a great quote from the book is that we've been granted the mental capacities to make almost infinitely ambitious plans, yet practically no time at all to put them into action. We've just 4,000 weeks to do what we can imagine. We have 4,000 weeks to change the world. We'll sum it up like that. Everyone, fundamentally, they're basically striving to change the world. And so we're gonna imagine all this stuff, but we can't be just living those imaginations. We have to decide, okay, what is it that you actually want when you really get down to the root of it all. How much of this is actually something that I want to do, and how much of this is I want to do this so I can prove to my parents, I can prove to whatever trauma you have, that whatever, right? Like I've mentioned this to some of my friends. It's kind of funny, but I said it was a side quest in my life to buy BJ's, the chain of restaurants. Right? It's a side quest. It's not something that I actually feel compelled to do or is necessary, but it'd be really cool if I did. Just, or even one. Even just be like a franchisee owner or whatever. Right? And so I can imagine all that stuff. I can imagine every time I read a book or study a person, I can imagine myself accomplishing it. But every time I do that, I also have to. Most 90% of that is just me fantasizing. It's not something that I actually want to do. It's not something that I actually should do. I wouldn't be any good at it. But it's because I maybe could, right? It's because it is possible for a human to accomplish it, that, oh, I think maybe I should try to accomplish it in addition to everything else. And so I think that's a very common experience for a lot of people. I think it's a particular problem for me, and like I think I get hit by it the most of anyone I know. But you need to figure out what it is that you want to do. And that's like this book just rehashes that over and over. Just figure out what it is, what you want to do it a ton. I think that's a thing Dave Ramsey says is when he studied the ultra rich, his conclusion is basically they just figured out what they were good at and then did that a ton, and that's how they've become ultra rich. And another thing that he says that's I've sort of incorporated into my like definition of success that I've been developing over time. It sort of my definition of success currently has two parts. The first part is from Naval, which is success is the ability to pursue health, wealth, and happiness. And the other half is from Dave Ramsey, which is with the people I want to pursue it with, where I want to pursue it. And so freedom of time, freedom of location, freedom of who I want to work with, and then pursuing meaningful things, health, wealth, and happiness. That's sort of my list. And you got to figure out your own personal definition of success and work towards that with the 4,000 weeks that you'll hopefully have.
Yeah, and like with that, it's like kind of reminds me of the Steve Jobs video where he's like, you could mold the world, you could sculpt it, and I think that's a super meaningful thing. The thing he fails to tell you is that you really need to pick one or two ways really to change the world because you're not going to be able to change the world in an infinite number of ways. And so you really need to pick something that really bugs you about the world. It's messed up in a lot of ways, right? Pick something that really freaking bugs you and change that. Find a team, and obviously be like you need to enjoy this. Like it needs to be super meaningful to you. It needs to like bug you so much to where it wakes you up every morning. And it's like I really need to solve this problem, right? I'm super maybe you're good at it or something like that. Um, you're able to provide a lot of value to society as a result of this. So it's like a bunch of different things. Like, are you good at it? Are you able to profit off of it? Are you able to provide value to society in doing so? Um, you're able to find a good group of people that are going to help you. It's like something that Naval also says. He's like, if you don't see yourself doing business with somebody for the rest of your life, don't do business with them for a day. Okay. You need to mold that startup team, mold that PayPal mafia to the best of your abilities, right? Like all the guys that were in the PayPal mafia, like they all dispersed and did their own thing, but they keep in contact with each other. Like if Elon Musk needs help, he's going to give Peter Thiel a call, and Peter Thiel will probably give him some money. Peter Thiel's a big investor in SpaceX, and so like, it's just like stuff like that. Just finding all those that kind of, and you need to tailor it to the best of your abilities to who you are as a person. Like what we talked about, like finding what you really like, finding what the top five things that you really want to spend the rest of your life doing, and then sort of molding all the other things around that. And I think you're able to accomplish the most in that limited 4,000 week span that we all have.
Yeah,
Um,
the other half to the like surround yourself with people that you can trust and you'll do business with forever, and then the other half is surround yourself with super competent people. Like that, the PayPal mafia became so successful because they constantly were looking for the people and never settling for, okay, this is good enough. No, we need the best people for the job here. Find that person and just constantly scaling upwards from there. Which that's hard to do because if you're constantly jumping person to person, you're not really able to form those strong high trust connections. And so I think better method might be learning together, right? And just constantly raising the bar for the like they learn and become better. Okay, give them something else to work on. Point out some other weakness or flaw, and it's constantly having that awareness, both of other people and yourself, where you can just constantly raise the bar and make um who you're working with better, and that can work out pretty well. But um, I mean, because skills can be taught, right? But the attitude and the sort of trust that that actually that is either built up over time or discovered, but it's not going to be just like suddenly on and working. And so that that's one of the things that I think sort of when building up your team, the it's a Gary Vee quote. It's a really good one. It's I'd rather have um C minus people, uh, uh, C minus skills with A plus humans than B plus attitude with A plus skills, right? The attitude makes way more of a difference than the skill, and because if you think about it, like I continuing what's continuing to happen is skills are becoming less and less valuable. They're becoming more distributed, and like knowledge that was previously kept confined to a couple libraries is now everywhere across the internet. Your ability to learn things and complete projects with AI, right? That's speeding up exponentially. Anyone can learn, but the desire to learn is scarce.
Yeah.
And so,
It's like
yeah.
I swear, the craziest thing is I learned something like that from like a job interview. I asked them in the interview like, what's the kind of person, like what skill set are you looking for? And the girl looked at me and goes, it's we're not necessarily looking for a certain skill set because the skill set that you have right now, it's a snapshot in this vast amount of time of what you have right now. Like we're looking for the kind of person that is eager to learn, that is eager to add to this team, this project, this company. We're looking for the kind of person that is very happy to come to work today and add to this team. We're not looking for somebody that has a very broad understanding of what accounting is, right? We're looking for the kind of person that wants to come to work every single day, learn, and add to the team. Like that skill set that you have right now is just a snapshot. Never forget that because the other person that may not know nearly as much as you do, but has a way better attitude and shows up every single day and puts in those hours, they're going to be better than you in the long run, right?
And that skill set might not be valuable at all in just a little bit. Like, I wanted to mention this in one of my classes where the professor was teaching us Excel, and my thinking throughout the whole class was in probably in less than 5 years, Excel is going to look so radically different because it's going to be so heavily integrated with AI, where it's not going to be all the stuff that we're doing now. We don't need to know all these formulas necessarily. But the desire to learn and the ability to learn, that's going to be the super useful thing. And so still work hard, still learn these skills, right? But know that if those skills don't become valuable, doesn't matter. You've learned how to learn, and that's the most important thing. And so when next time it comes around, you'll be better prepared for learning the new skill that you need to accomplish it. And if you like at the end of the day, there's a if you're going against someone who who's already doing better than you, if you're behind, your only options are either learn faster, work harder, or get lucky, right? Either you can put in more hours, you can figure stuff out that he doesn't already know, or you can just somehow get lucky and happen to catch a wave that puts you ahead of them. But other than those three things, you can't catch up because he's also learning, he's also working hard, he's also experiencing luck and probably more luck because he's has the reputation, he has more insights and the ability to predict what's going to happen from his experience, right? And so your only option, and you may not be able to work harder than him. Working hard for a lot of positions, that's the bare minimum. That's just simply what it takes. That's the expectation of what you're going to bring to the table. But the learning faster, I think there's a lot of times where that's actually really easy to do because other people, especially more experienced people, they're comfortable with what they know and they trust, okay, this has worked in the past, so it's going to work again. And that may not necessarily be true. And if you can figure out, okay, this is how it's changing, this is what you need to do now, that's when you're going to suddenly discover you have some advantage and be able to pull ahead. And so that's sort of how you can compete with people on advance, which is not really what this book is all about, but was a thought that I think is still pretty useful.
But yeah, with this book, I'd say one of I guess the two most important things I think you really need to take away from this is not living in the future. It's like in the Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow Rich, it almost feels like it's sort of against that in a sense, because Napoleon Hill advocates for visualizing the future and looking at that, what that wealth looks like looking forward and seeing who you are at the end, like what it looks like to have that successful company, look what it looks like to have $1 billion net worth or something like that, and trying to almost like bridge the gap between that future self and where you are currently, almost like living in the future too much. And this book talks about not living in the future as much. He talks about how you need to soak up what's happening right now, because if you live in the future, you're kind of um, missing out on everything that's going on around you. So trying to do something simply for the sake of doing it is something that I think we can all do a better job aiming for, especially the people that work themselves to the bone, right? The people that work two part-time jobs. PJ, I'm kidding.
I thought you were driving towards lawyers. The I thought you were driving towards people with billable hours that have been conditioned to believe that their time has a numerical value attached to it, and
Yeah.
that's what matters. But I saw this quote the other day is that the only people who are going to remember that you worked late is going to be your wife and kids.
Yeah.
No one else is going to take notes of all that time that you're spending except them. And so you need to make sure you're spending your time in a way that you believe is valuable. And hopefully, and probably that's going to involve other people that you care about. That's going to be a thing. Um,
Yeah.
I, I think my biggest takeaway, besides not living in the future, is just like doing stuff for the sake of doing it and making sure that everything that you do is something that you legitimately care about, and it's not because you're pursuing some goal, it's because you actually have fun, you actually enjoy doing the thing, and that irregardless of the success or the outcome or anything, that's the thing you want to do. And I think if you have that, then the success and everything else will come, because everyone else, they're soon as it becomes difficult, they're gonna ditch, right? But if you simply enjoy doing what you're doing for the sake of doing it, you'll stick around and you'll do it more than everyone else, and that's when you'll actually hit the levels of success that are insane. Like Mr. Beast, right? He just enjoys what he's doing, and because of that, he's built an audience of more than 150 million people on one channel.
Yeah.
Across this many, it's way more. And so that's sort of my number one takeaway: is just find something worth doing and do it. So I think that's a good place to end off. Once again, thank you
I think it is.
so much for watching, and be sure to catch us for next episode Tuesday at noon. We will see you there, and see you.